All right, sorry about that little error on my part. I forgot to engage the mixer on my laptop, and but we're back and rolling.
So basically, what was missed was you're
Well,
going to Australia tomorrow.
yeah, we're going over Australia. We're talking about camping and all that. Sorry about the audio there. Just talking about our days for a second. But anyways, I mean, we go back over that real quick. Uh, Shoot, that kind of broke down
Yeah,
our
I mean,
flow a
like,
little bit.
man. Well, my youngest son's in town, so it's been a good day for me. Been a good week. Um, Nothing too much new except for obviously I'm feeling a little bit more artsy with my fabulous blonde hair and wearing my sunglasses inside. Um, I mean, other than that, I picked up a new camera, Canon T5i. Been loving the hell out of it. Put music back down on the back burner a little bit so I can freshen myself up.
Thanks to everyone warning me that there's no audio. I was wondering why my phone was going off. I'm not usually that popular, uh, but I had to break down and actually look at it. So I greatly appreciate y'all letting me know that there's no audio going on. Again, that was error on my part, not engaging the mixer. But basically today, that we're just kind of just a little bit more info about just things that we like to do. We're gonna go over TV shows, music, books, movies, just our top fives, just and then maybe some rambling in between, just go off topic a little bit. But just basically started out just talking about how our days went and what we look forward to the future, and we'll get back to that towards the end. But so, what do you want to start off with, Wayne? Like
Hmm. I feel like let's do TV shows.
TV shows. All right, first one, number one.
Number one, hands down, The Office.
The Office.
The U.S. version, because I'm sure a lot of people are gonna hate me when I say the British one is garbage. I don't care if you like dry humor; it's just really bad. I've given it so many chances, and I'm like, it's Michael Scott in U.S. is Steve Carell playing him is just phenomenal. Like he's hilarious, and to me, just the UK version just doesn't do it. Like I can't stand it.
I've only watched a couple seasons of The Office. I haven't fully dove into it. I've just been distracted by other shows. My number one TV show will be got Game of Thrones.
See,
And
I tried watching it. I got like maybe 20 minutes into the first episode,
see,
and I was like, I can't do this. This is
see,
like
but
Lord of the Rings.
here's the thing: I didn't watch it for like the first four seasons. Like I didn't dive into Game of Thrones until like probably mid season of season four, and I watched one of the episodes. I was like, that's really good. And then my friend Cameron, he was all like, "You haven't watched any of these?" I'm like, "Not at all." So I was living with him at the time, so he just downloaded all the previous seasons and just. It was at the time I think I was already graduated. I was kind of in between jobs, and just had all this extra time, and like just started from season one, episode one, two, three, kind of slow, but builds starts building, builds up to it. Like you gotta watch all the side stories, pay attention. Like there's the main story going on, then there's the side story going on.
I also hear that they're like not afraid to like kill anybody.
Oh yeah,
They're just like, oh hey, this
like
guy's big shit one episode, and then
mhm.
he's just screwed 30 minutes later.
Yeah, Sean Bean, like he's like a famous British actor.
Shaun of the Dead dude, or is that Sean? That's just I think that's a different guy.
Nah, Sean Bean. I think it's Sean Bean. But anyways, like you thought like he's gonna be a main character for a long time, and
I can't do this anymore with the
and
glasses.
then if you haven't seen it already, then whatever. It's been out long enough, and you don't care.
Yeah, I know
but,
that the dude holding the door is already dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I mean everybody was making a big deal about that.
But yeah, that for a while be my number one TV show, and I don't think there'll be anything like it that will come after it. So it'll be a while before something of this magnitude comes out again.
Now, do you have like a number two, like a definite number two, or like the rest of yours just kind of scrambled up in order like mine?
No, definite number two. My number two is Vice News, because they just get real into the story. Like they're not afraid to show anything graphic. They're not afraid to like blow your mind with what they bring out. It's serious. It's on point. They're there. They're sharing the story like as if you were there, and comes out clear and across. If they just showed the images alone, that would be the news.
Just like Faces of Death type, but more
well,
tame.
They don't just do death, but they do like medical research.
It's real stuff.
Yeah,
it's
real.
not.
It's not just hyped up.
Censored stuff. It's what it is.
So what about you? You don't have a definite number two on there?
I do, but I kind of wanted to avoid talking about it because it's going to spoil something else. Ash vs. the Evil Dead. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Evil Dead series. I mean, it's all
not too much
movies, and started off in the 80s, and it was done by Sam Raimi. Bruce Campbell stars in it. He was also in Burn Notice. Mm-hmm. Basically, some unbelievably pretentious, cocky guy gets stuck fighting off possessed people in a cabin in the woods, and Ash vs. the Evil Dead picks up 20 some odd years later, continuing the following of Ash after a ridiculous
amount of
chain of events. And I'll talk more about it when I get to the movie, so plot spoiler, it's on one of my movies. After that, I'd probably see my last three are like so neck and neck because I watched them all at different points in my life. Mm-hmm. Like Breaking Bad's one of them.
I love Breaking Bad, but
I stumbled across that, like how you're saying, like with Game of Thrones, mm-hmm. was like kind of a little bit current at the time, which for then it was like going into the last season. And then I fell in love with that show. Like I would not move from my couch. I would just sit there and I was like, man, this is really in depth. Like at first I'm like, well, how good could a show about crystal meth be? Like,
well, what vulgar or most violent scene sticks out most from Breaking Bad for you? Because I got one.
The wheelchair dude when he rings the bell and then it blows off Gus's face. Yeah, that for me, I was like, dang, that's pretty brutal for a TV show. And then with all the stuff they're doing with like Walking Dead, I feel like they're trying to push that envelope every season.
Mine was when that white kid shot the not kid, but the younger guy, the white younger guy, kind of redneckish hick.
Yeah, the taller one. Yeah. He had like a stupid name.
I don't remember.
Right. But
it's when he shot the kid.
Oh yeah.
Because he saw them unloading on the train and he waved at them, and I was like, wow, really?
Yeah.
Damn. But after that, I got
Wait, you had Breaking Bad too?
No, I don't have Breaking Bad. I mean, if I had top 10, then yeah, it would be on there. But my next one is my last three are actually kind of nerdy, but they're close to my heart. Is I don't know if you ever watched on Netflix, Cosmo.
Cosmos. Okay. One of my buddies was telling me to watch that because he knows like I
there's
Stephen
two.
Hawking, and he was like, "Oh, you love."
Well, no, this isn't Stephen Hawking. It's
no, I know it's not, but it's like that whole realm of science and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's why he was like, "Oh, you got to watch the show." It's like it's not. There's like one in the 70s, and there's
the one in the 70s was with Carl Sagan. Yeah. And it's about Voyager 1, I believe. It's either about Voyager 1 or Voyager 2, and how about they're traveling out the solar system towards the outer planets, looping around them, and then continuing their voyage beyond our solar system, which recently I believe both of them just passed our solar cloud, which like there's our sun,
like our boundary.
There's the solar system, and then like the solar cloud is what surrounds everything. That's basically like the end of our sun's influence. Oh. Like that's the boundary, and they just passed that, and they were launched nearly 40 years ago.
Jeez.
So that was a long time ago. And then there's a new one that came out probably about 2-3 years ago with Neil deGrasse Tyson.
So is that basically picking up where? Is it more of a documentary type?
It's more like it's a series. It's a series of documentaries, and he breaks it down between just different levels of science between to basically dumb it down from the smallest structure, which is an atom, to the largest structures known in the universe, which are galaxies and the known universe. So that's my nerd right
I'm gonna
there.
I'm gonna have to write that one down so make sure I check it out. Which one? I mean, I should obviously start watching the one with Carl Sagan first, right?
Yeah, I mean it's a little dry, but if you're really into science and you really love knowing more knowledge about planets and our solar system, like
I mean, it's the one thing. It's the final frontier. I know that's not a spoiler. That's not a spoiler for my next TV show. So I'm just saying.
we have it. We actually have a final frontier here on this planet. Our oceans.
Oh yeah.
Only 5% of the ocean has been mapped. Well, it's all been mapped, but only like 5% of that mapped has only been like searched, like gone and explored.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be some crazy shit down there.
Yeah, they're always, every time they make a deep sea dive, they're always finding some type of new species down there that looks like an alien.
Yeah, and I mean, that's where I'm like, I don't know, I'm good.
What you got next on there?
Now, big one for me, and it's another, yes, it is a U.S. version that I prefer. But the U.S. version was also written, and the main character was played by the same person, which was the writer, director. And that's Wilfred. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I started watching that with you at your old apartment.
Yeah,
I think it was like the first time we saw it, and I mean.
Yeah, over there at Hidden Lake.
Yeah, and the reason why I like that show so much is because it has probably one of the most obscure ways to showcase mental. I don't want to offend anybody. Deficiencies. I don't know.
Just say it, man. No.
You know, they showcase how fucking nutcases are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in a very visual sense, and you know, it's not like. I mean, what's his name? Frodo, Elijah Wood. His character, you know, gonna commit suicide, fails, and then starts seeing his neighbor's dog and communicating with him, becoming best friends, doing drugs, doing other illegal things. And he sees him as a human in a dog suit. Like, that's just absolutely ridiculous, you know? And it's like, oh, hey, you know, he's been around for some time and like this and that, and just really, it's like, I feel like it's that whole like devil on the shoulder thing.
Yeah.
Because he just dicks with him throughout the entire show. And it sucks that it was...
I don't quite remember that. Does other people see him as
only Elijah Wood.
So it's pretty much how like some people view their own pets. Like see him as another person.
And it's like, I mean, it gets pretty outlandish, and I mean, it has some incredibly great dark humor in it. That's completely tasteless. So I think that's another reason why I gravitated towards it. But my last one would have to be Lost. And I think a lot of the reason behind that is because I started watching it when it first came out. I was early teens. I was like maybe 14, 15. I don't remember. And it just like mind boggled me. I was like, what is everything?
See, I didn't watch that until this year.
See, I wish I would have done that because I've seen it like 7 times now, and there's still parts where I'm like. But then I watched Memento the first time.
It's
all
the jumping around between time loops. And I'm all like, what the hell's going on? And then the last season was disappointing in my opinion.
It was, but the one thing that I do like about it is it's so open to where you and I could sit here and talk about the last, 3 episodes and what we take from it, and neither of us be right or wrong. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like. And I really like that because especially how in depth they get with characters and the development throughout the six seasons. Mm-hmm. That it's like, and I mean it's not like those seasons are short. You got like 20 some odd 1 hour long episodes, and it's like you get to invest so much time in these characters, and even after certain characters are gone, the character's still there within memory, stuff like that, and it's. It becomes more personal at that point. And I think Lost was the first show to really capture that just because there wasn't so much outside influence. They're on an island
Yeah, there's not a lot
yeah,
going on other than just their own little drama and trying to get
I mean,
off.
like smoke demons flying around, stuff like that. But honorable mention for me, which I had to include on it, is Rick and Morty. And I'm not a big fan of cartoons.
I'll give them honorable mentions.
But it's like Rick and Morty is something that just kind of came out of left field and was really original. Even though you're like, oh, okay, the whole sci-fi stuff's already been done before, this and that.
Well, did you know the creator was actually in the beginning off his YouTube channel? He was just doing a parody off of Back to the Future.
No way.
Yeah, so that's why Rick kind of looks like Doc Brown, and Morty kind of, even his names.
Yeah,
is Marty.
I didn't even think of that.
And mad scientist.
Yeah.
And dorky kid.
Huh.
So they kind of, when they transitioned to when the Cartoon Network picked them up,
they kept that kind of persona type thing going. That's cool. I didn't know that.
For my cartoon that is in my top 5 is one from the 80s. I don't know if you would know it, but I remember watching a movie of it, and then later on as an adult, I found a whole entire like cartoon seasons on it. Robotech.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
And it's just basically like this ancient ship comes crashing on Earth. We develop the technology. We research it. We start building our own like aircrafts out of it. Like basically F-14 Tomcats that turn into like robot machines. And then this alien race comes out of nowhere and starts attacking us, and the ship leaves. And I like it so much, just because it's a different. Because the creators of it were Japanese artists, TV writers, so they put in a lot of their cultural influence into that show.
It's just like I love Akira, like I love the whole like cyberpunk type animation stuff, and that was like around the same era, and because I remember I couldn't tell you if I've ever seen an episode, but. I mean, that whole era of like, oh, we gotta go like super like, the synthwave, retrowave, or retrofuturism stuff where it's like, the neon lights, Tron stuff. Like, I always get a kick out of that. I love that stuff still to this day.
And like at first, I showed that cartoon to my girlfriend. And at first, she didn't like it because it's a little sexist. It's Japanese culture. But then once she realized, like, because she's real fond of Japanese culture, she really loves it, she started seeing that, and, like, she started liking it more and more and more. I was all like, see, it's not a bad show after all. And my last one for TV shows is Airwolf, from attack helicopter that was pretty much indestructible. The only thing that could probably destroy it was a nuclear weapon. Black helicopter. It just a guy that went on many adventures in a stolen helicopter from the U.S. government until they returned his brother or found his brother.
What was it called again?
Airwolf, man.
Airwolf.
I'm surprised you never heard of it.
It sounds familiar, but I can't place anything with it.
It kind of looks like a killer whale in the air. It's got that same color, a white belly with the black top.
I guess I could throw another honorable mention out there while I'm wasting time right now. It's Cowboy Bebop, man. Cowboy Bebop was awesome. I don't know if you ever got a chance to watch that.
Nah, I never got to watch Cowboy Bebop.
It was really solid, and they ended it with a movie, like a TV movie. Just all, and I'm not a big anime guy. It's like, the standard, I guess Dragon Ball Z I was into, and like Gundam, but I was that for me just like icing on the cake. Like that made me, because it had a lot of that Akira type feel to it, but it had very different, like more flat animation, and oh my god, I do remember this.
See, it was an indestructible helicopter, and he always went up on pretty much impossible missions, or
and they had those stupid helmets. They had those stupid helmets.
The helicopter reached like Mach 2 or something, which is probably not even science proof. It's probably not even aerodynamically possible.
Oh man. All right. Well, what do you want to move on to next? I'll let you choose the next one.
Go with books, because yeah, my number one book, and ever since I read it, and I highly recommend this book to anybody that feels like they just feel like they can't get anything done, is The War of Art. Not the art of war, The War of Art. It's a short read, doesn't take too long. Probably, if you read it through and through, it'll probably take 3-4 hours. But it talks about every little thing you do that stops you from doing your task or your goal that you want to accomplish is a resistance. And he doesn't talk about how you can overcome your own resistance. He talks about the resistance he encountered and how he worked through his resistance. And seriously, can people that are texting me stop texting me? I'm busy. It's kind of annoying. But yeah, resistance. He just talks about like every day you have a resistance. Like, say you want to write a song. You get to writing that song, someone calls you, or you get distracted, you're hungry, something. That's a resistance. Like, you got to figure out in your own life what your resistance are and how to attack it, how to approach it, how to overcome them. And basically what he does is he sees what his resistance are and he sees his tasks. He just focuses on his tasks. He just pushes through his tasks, get it done, get it over with. So that's why I recommend The War of Art. It's a very good book. I wouldn't call it inspiring. I just call it a good enlightening. Just give you like a little motivation to get things done.
Well, you know, it's funny is because like my number one book, hands down, is kind of on the same page of that. It's actually called The Tao of Pooh, like Winnie the Pooh, and basically it's an introduction to Taoism, which is more of a spiritual, philosophical belief system that originated in China. And it was so hard for Westerners to understand exactly what they meant because, you know, the Tao was like the way, you know, It was basically what gives life to things, that kind of stuff. And it's so complex and so hard for us as Westerners just because of what our culture has come up from, that Benjamin Hoff, the author, actually explains how Taoism works through the story of Winnie the Pooh. And it's just, it's like one of those things like where Winnie the Pooh kind of sticks out to a lot of people. Like, is it being so much more than what it's actually portrayed to be? You know what I mean? Like, you know, there's a bunch of crazy, like, theories and all that crap, but it's just, there's so much symbolism with each character. And there's no real background to describe it. So that's why it's, you know, it's been related to a lot of, like, mental illnesses, stuff like that. But really seeing the story told, and I mean, it's not just, like, you know, the adventures of Winnie the Pooh, but it's the same stuff that, like, the characters would do and how each part of them flows into one actual way. And it's, I mean, it's cool, even though it's like a religious, quote unquote, belief system. It's more philosophical.
What was the name of it again?
The Tao of Pooh. So it's Tao of Pooh.
Okay.
What's your second book?
Second book I have Count of Monte Cristo. It's a book that I've enjoyed reading multiple times over the years. And it's just the story of he was robbed of his life, and then he suffered crimes, pain for things that he didn't even do because someone wanted what he had. And then through the gift of a dying man, he got riches and treasures to basically obtain everything he lost and more, and build up an empire to regain what he lost, to get his vengeance. But at the end, he didn't take his vengeance. He broke down the men that betrayed him, that stole everything he took, and he just broke, like, I don't know if you ever read it, but he had the opportunity to kill him at the end, and he chose not to. He chose to let him live. And I thought that was the best part. Like, yeah, you wanted him to get his vengeance, you wanted him to take his life, but at the end, he betrayed him for everything he was. He showed everybody that knew him the type of person he was, what he did. And I think that's the best revenge you can get. It's not killing someone, but showing the person for what they really are.
Yeah, and, proving, to be more of a man, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's hard for me to pick out my second book. I know, like, in my head what I want to say, but I kind of want to lean it more towards, like, a fictional side. Book called House of Leaves.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's and I think it's not so much the story that really captivated me as it was the text, and, like, the layout of the pages. It's about a guy moves into a house, weird stuff happens, the house measures bigger on the inside than it is on the outside, starts going crazy, all this stuff. It's a very hard book to, like, really understand solely because of the way it's written. Like, you'll be reading it just, like, standard format,
mm-hmm.
and then you turn the page, and then it's, like, text is, like, coming from, like, diagonally down the page. It's so weird. I mean, I'll pull up some pictures of it, and you're just like, what is this? And it's, for some reason, it gives more dramatic flair and, like, stuff like that to it. And it's not a poorly written book by any means. It's a great book, but it's just seeing something like that. It's definitely different. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And you're gonna be like it, because I don't know if you've ever read any or seen any Japanese books, how they kind of look like the Matrix. Like the characters come.
Yeah.
They fall down. And I think that's really cool because it kind of gives the text more character. I mean, maybe it's just because we're just not something we're used to, but yeah. And then I'd have to say right after that one, I'm gonna save my second favorite till the last, just because I want to split it up a little bit. I am a huge enthusiast of Philip K. Dick, and it took me a long time to decide between Valis, Minority Report, and Scanner Darkly.
Mm.
I probably, like, I loved Minority Report, and I think that even the movie adaptation was pretty damn good. Even though I'm not the biggest Tom Cruise fan, I don't hate him, but
he makes too many damn movies.
Yeah. But it's like that for me right there was. See, I can't even choose between those two. I'm just gonna go with the tie for both of them: Scanner Darkly and Minority Report.
Well, I won't say my favorite for the last. I'll do my favorite next. Goes back a long time ago, and it's the Odyssey. The Odyssey, because it really opened up my mind and my heart to Greek mythology. So much so that I even took. I think for because I got some other good ones. Because you gotta take a literature credit in college, so I took a Greek mythology class in college, and man, so much information, and the professor, like when you have a teacher, when you have like a good teacher, when he like comes into it and he's just like loud and into it every day, like every class he was just into it. He was just gracefully like, we're going to do this, we're going to talk about this is who we're going to talk about, this is what he did, this is what this guy did, this is what's his abilities, this was the people he influenced. Like, he just put so much emotion into that subject, and that like increased my influence into, like, my emotions into it even more. And that's why I say that's one of my favorite, because the Odyssey opened up Greek mythology so much for me. And I know a lot of people don't like Greek mythology just because they say it's a myth and whatever, but people back then, that's what they believed in.
Let me tell you this, and I can actually tie this into something, because you'll see when I get to the movie segment. For me, well, my one of my like all-time favorite books is A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking.
Mm-hmm.
Just because he has been criticized his entire life for being an atheist. You know, this is the most brilliant man on the planet. Guy can do things in his head that we can't do with 20 other people and all the technology in the world, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And he has been disregarded so much on speaking on certain senses because people put religion, you know, above actual facts. And, I mean, any religion could be factual.
Yeah.
Now, and it's like, in Greek mythology, these were things that people thought up of to explain certain phenomena. Like,
yeah, volcanoes,
yeah, it's like
tsunamis, earthquakes.
That's incredible.
The sun rising,
well, you
the
see
moon.
how far-fetched it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, us just thinking of talking about it, but then it's like, how is, you know, other religions, you know, any other religions' beliefs not the same? But it's only, you know, the Norse and Greek mythology that are viewed that way, and those are the first two things that the Catholic Church helped eradicate.
Yeah.
So that's why the Norse, you know, were, you know, they still burn down churches to these days, because they were the first victims of, you know, these holy crusades. It's like, I mean, you can't blame them, but I mean, each religion is phenomenal at storytelling.
Oh yeah.
Whether the stories be true or false, that's not up for me to say because I can't prove it. But that's, I mean, a Brief History of Time is, I feel like it's like Stephen Hawking, like pulling out his dick if he could, you know. But it's, I mean, it's basically his like clap back, you know what I mean? Like his diss track to everybody, and it's unbelievably well.
Have you ever watched that movie documentary about Stephen Hawking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like
I find it fascinating how his wife was so religious, and like he tried everything to like not convey her, but like just try to like respect her views and wishes and everything. But I think it just got to a point when that assistant came in and just, she was just so much more science-based than his wife, and that's just...
Yeah, and it's, I mean, it's also like, you kind of can't blame somebody who loses, you know, basically all movement of their, well, not basically, loses all movement, you know, of their entire body and confined to a wheelchair and cannot enjoy, you know, a million things that we can enjoy. You can't expect them to be like, oh yeah, I love God. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, and that's the thing with that is, science is here to be proven to everybody. Religion is not.
It's not only to be proven right. Science is also here to be proven wrong.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people forget and think, that science is just here to prove everything right. Like 2 + 2 = 4. There's actual people trying to figure out that 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4. It's ridiculous how many people there actually are trying to prove certain science is wrong than there is right. And then a book after the Odyssey I have is it's a series of books, but it's all basically one storyline. Like the books follow. What?
Is it The Stand?
No.
Well, that was just a giant ass book. Never mind.
It's it's the Steelheart series. It's basically about this comet comes from out of nowhere and starts orbiting the planet. And what this comet does is it gifts people different powers. So everyone becomes like superheroes, like Superman, the Atom Man, Shazam Man. Like they all get like different powers.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of being superheroes, they all become super villains.
This is called Steelheart?
Yeah, the Steelheart series. It's by Brandon's...
1 or 2 words?
1 word. by Brandon Anderson, I believe. And he just goes on a series of books. It's primarily around one kid,
Mm-hmm.
uh, his life and how he was affected first by Steelheart. Steelheart is a supervillain. He's kind of like Superman, but when he screams, like he has all the attributes of Superman, but when he screams, everything turns to steel.
I wonder how that could be beneficial.
So I mean, I'm not really throwing any I'm not ruining the book if I say this, because it's towards the beginning of the book. It's like on the first 2 pages, but Steelheart turns the main character's father into steel, and that's kind of like his vengeance. And it starts off like some of the major cities become pretty much hostile to these supervillains. It's a really exciting book. Like, teaches you about, well, yeah, everyone could be superheroes, but what if everyone's supervillains?
I mean, that's definitely a different twist compared to what we've been accustomed to know. Here I actually found, just one of the pages from House of Leaves. I mean, there's a lot of, you have to read the book in a very strange way. So.
Oh wow, sideways.
Yeah.
Inwards, outwards.
Yeah, all here. And I mean, show it over here so people can see it.
It's not really showing up.
It was worth a shot. It's okay. You wouldn't be able to read it anyway. It's a bunch of jumbled garbage. You gotta switch the fonts and all that shit. But there's actually a how-to guide on how to properly read the book because it's that jacked up. No, as far as my last book, I'd have to probably go with The Shining. To be honest with you, and a lot of people are going to shame me for this, I have never seen Stanley Kubrick's movie with Jack Nicholson. I've always refused to watch it solely because of the ending. In the book, plot spoiler, he does not die in the snow. It makes so much more sense, and they made a really bad TV movie, early 2000s, something like that, that actually had the ending in the book, which made so much more sense, and I'm sure nobody cares if I spoil this. Basically, he goes mad and decides to blow up the whole fucking place in the boiler room. Takes himself out, and it's like awesome because the whole ending, from what I understand in Stanley Kubrick's, and I love Stanley Kubrick, is that it was too subtle, and that's my thing. Is like, I love horror movies so much. Horror movies are not supposed to have happy endings. I love to watch a good horror film that leaves me uncomfortable at the end. Whether it be like, have you seen The Mist?
Yes.
Okay, The Mist. Like, that movie is still to this day. I think it's even rated PG-13. No, it's rated R. No, The Fog was PG-13.
Yeah.
But that ending is probably one of the most, like, just holy shit, like, uncomfortable, like, wow endings I've ever seen in mainstream American film. And it's, that for me is what horror is supposed to be about, and that's how The Shining was as a book. It was really uncomfortable to read, even at points. Even like, the sex scenes that were in the book were just very, almost like atrocious in a sense. I mean, it was I don't know, the way Stephen King wrote that book was just, you could tell he was all screwed up.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's when he put out his best work, that and It. So, I mean, that Shining's definitely on there.
Well, Shining's a good book. Like you said, it has a very disturbing ending. My last book on here, it's kind of, I like it, but I don't like it. It's a very controversial. It gives you a lot of thoughts.
Are you gonna let me take a guess?
What?
Do we read it in school?
No.
No.
No. The book is called Sex at Dawn,
Oh.
and it's about it is about sex, but it's about the culture of sex and the different types of relationships. And the author and his wife, they're both PhD, studied psychology, and they basically talk about how sex is related to at the primal stage, which is apes, bamboos, nobles, I believe is what they are, and other types of.
It's like a totem pole.
Yeah, and then kind of tries to relate it to us as humans and why certain people have a certain way of doing things, why they experiment with relationships, and they kind of some of the tests I think that they do in the book that they explain. Some of it's valid. Some I think it's kind of like, well, if you ask anybody that question, like, it's kind of broad and simple, but too simple at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, I've had many arguments with this book, with my girlfriend, and I'm just saying, like, look, I'm not saying I believe everything in this book. I'm just reading it because I want to know how other people live their lives, why they chose to live their lives this way, and just basically trying to understand the human society factions that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of people that do that kind of lifestyle live in secret. They live hiding from the main society, and I'm just trying to see, like, why they do that. And I understand why. Like, people are afraid. People don't understand, and that's the main thing that I really want to change about myself, is that I don't want to be afraid of things I don't understand. I want to learn. I want to research, because the first thing that we do when we don't understand something, we destroy it, we ignore it, or we just simply push it out of mind.
Yep, and that's why like for me, like I feel like throwing, religion kind of out the window for me was for me personally was very beneficial, because I feel like I've been so much more open to actual possibilities, I guess you'd say.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and that's the thing, like, is I don't feel like I'm destined to do anything but what I want to do. Obviously within reason. But so one of your books that was on there was The Odyssey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, one of my movies is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Okay, yeah.
So, anybody who hasn't seen it, you are a
George
terrible
Clooney?
person. Yeah, you're a terrible person if you have not seen that movie. George Clooney did a phenomenal job. It's basically a, chain gang story of the Odyssey during the Prohibition era, and it's phenomenal. And the soundtrack is unbelievable. The acting is, that's the best George Clooney has done in a movie. Everything that John Goodman was fantastic. What
about Batman, man?
It's like, but it's like, John Goodman was terrific in it. Everything in that movie, like, how they chose to do, Prohibition era chain gang style telling of that, to me, is just like, there had to have been some sort of drug use or something. Like, oh man, it would be really cool to put this with the Odyssey, Like, that's the only way I can think of it. But that movie is definitely one of my favorites, just because of how original it is with another, a retold story. But it's still so original. It's like you don't get that feeling, but at the same time, it's like when he gets to, like, the sirens into the Cyclops, it's like, it's all, the mental aspects of it, stuff like that, the psychological stuff. That's what really drew me to that movie. So what you got on your? I'm doing my favorite movie last.
Yeah, I'll do that one last. I'll do my favorite movie last. But first movie that I ever liked when I was a kid was was a Star Wars movie, and it was Return of the Jedi. I mean, I think my mom and dad tried to show me 1, 2, 3, and then after that I was just like 3, 3, 3.
4, 5, and 6 for the Star Wars nerds.
Well, yeah, sorry.
I like Hayden would be over here kicking you right now.
It would be episode 6, but at the time I was a kid. It was just 3.
Yeah, it was 1, 2, and 3.
But Return of the Jedi, like, I still think it's one of the better ones, and just the story was way better than even anything that's come out, and I feel like so far that Rogue Star
One,
Wars.
I bought it and I still haven't watched it.
See, I went to watch it in the theater, and I think I fell asleep. For
I like I like the Force Awakens one, which reminds me, actually, next Friday, the Last Jedi, I think is what it's called.
Yeah. I'm kind of worried about that. I'm kind of worried that it's
I don't know. I'm
good.
feeling this whole, recycled trilogy trend. I mean, it's setting up exactly how Empire was. It's like, Jedi's going to go train with the Jedi, all that stuff. Fun fact about Return of the Jedi is it was actually originally called Revenge of the Jedi.
Yeah.
They did a limited run of posters, windbreakers, all that stuff.
But they found out it wouldn't be a really good story for the Jedi.
Yeah, it's like the Jedis aren't supposed to exact revenge, So it's supposed to be return, and it's like, oh, Luke's coming back after his, training session, all that stuff.
Which, and my favorite character, even to this day, even he didn't have that big a role in like 5 and 6, was Yoda. Like, yeah, he had a couple like big scenes, but it wasn't like major. He wasn't like a major star. And then I like how like they kind of made him a bigger star in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, that was, because he did play a big part in Empire, but the thing is with that, it was just more of like...
It was more cut out. Like, it was more,
Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah. It was more of a backstory. It wasn't the main story. Because obviously Luke's training didn't take place in just 20 minutes. Like,
yeah.
He was there for several weeks, if not months, training with Yoda.
Mm-hmm.
But they gotta convert that to like a 2.5 hour movie.
Let's see. I'll throw out something from that time frame. I'm already gonna, I spoiled it earlier, and this isn't the one I'm going for, but the Evil Dead series. Evil Dead 1, 2, Army of Darkness, all that stuff. Even the Evil Dead reboot, great. Started off horror, campy, turned into comedy, but that was on my list. But The Exorcist. Reason why, people don't realize that movie came out in 1973. And in 1973, it came out around the same time as Star Wars. Censorship was a huge thing back then.
Yeah.
And, what's her name? Linda Blair, she drops the "See you next Tuesday" word and, jams a crucifix in her crotch. And it's like, not like I'm saying, oh, yeah, it's awesome. Oh, yeah. It's more of, even though, yes, it was graphic. And there are parts, people watch it today and they're still, creeped out by it. My dad, he's a huge motherfucker. Like, he's scared of 2 things: The Exorcist and, like, I think spiders or something. But, it's like, he would much rather, get shot than have to watch The Exorcist. Like, it terrifies him.
Wow, that bad.
But he's also, like, super Catholic. But,
well, that'll do it.
The thing is like, from everything from the ambiance, like, that keeps growing over and just how dark everything in the film gets, to the ending, once again, not having the happy ending. And it was just so... it doesn't let up. It's just so evil, you know what I mean? Like, even if you don't believe in this stuff, like, it's still just like, man, it's
a dark path.
Exactly. And it's like, man, I feel like it was captured perfectly. If I had a 12-year-old daughter, I would definitely not let her say half the things that Linda Blair's parents did. But she made a living off that. So, and it's, that to me, just, even the first time I watched it, I think it was like 11 or 12 years old. It kind of, I don't know, it made me, it was like the first time I saw a movie and there was like a definitive evil. Not like a bad guy, but an evil,
Mm.
And that to me, how they were able to portray that in a movie that I still have yet to see. Because, if you watch Insidious or any other type of possession movie, you don't get that same vibe. It's like they don't want to go that route and be like, oh, you know what, like, let's make this as, dark and demonic and twisted as we can within, certain boundaries. But, I mean, they still can't touch it, 50 years later. So it's, that, is definitely on there for me.
To stay down that dark path, it's kind of a recent movie, but I feel like it was good, was The Dark Knight with Batman and the Joker, because it's not good and evil, because Batman's not good and the Joker's not really evil. It's more of a, I would say, bad versus bad, and it's a yin yang because they both created one of another.
It's the one who accepts it and the one who tries to push it away.
Yeah, it lives by one rule, and that one rule is not to kill anybody, and the other one has no rules, but they both need each other.
And I think a lot of the situation that actually, where Heath Ledger killed himself after that, or overdose, died, it made that movie 10 times darker. Like just everything. It was like that was a pretty crazy flick, and I remember going to see it on opening night at midnight, and I was just like, man, this is...
He gave himself into that character.
Yeah, and it's wild. I mean, I can't...
And I don't know if you read, like, the off stories between that. Like, there was supposed to be, like, a Batman Joker 2.
Yeah.
And pretty much why I believe, like, Dark Knight Rises was not as good as it could have been or should have been.
I mean, it still was great. Like,
it was good, but
you have Christopher Nolan doing it. Like,
but it ended early.
Yeah, I mean,
like it was supposed to be like
Batman,
two,
Robin,
3 more.
Red Hood.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 2-3 more movies into that.
Before
they got to the
way I
Bane.
look at it is, I mean, I'm okay with the Batman trilogy, the Dark Knight trilogy, ending the way that it did, just because, like, I mean, Christopher Nolan did a great job with, the Batman storyline. He wanted to give Bane a major role, which he never got in a movie before. But Inception was incredible. I mean, that
Interstellar.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to. Yeah, Interstellar is and I don't care anybody says 2001: Space Odyssey, you're wrong. Yes, I know it's a classic, but that does not make it good. And it doesn't mean that
I don't know about that, Dave.
Better can come back out. I know, I love 2001. Don't get me wrong. But Interstellar to me is just so... Interstellar is for us what 2001 would be for like our folks and our grandparents. And in a time where it is so hard to do something that groundbreaking anymore because everything's already been thought up, and to really push outside those boxes and to bring in Einstein's theory of relativity, it's and actually display all of it is, I mean, he did it incredibly. I thought it was going to be trash because Matthew McConaughey in a serious role like that, and Anne Hathaway, I was like, I don't know, both of them were incredible. Matt Damon showing up in the middle of it, just I mean, that was hilarious.
I know,
to me.
Matt Damon becoming like the betrayer, and I'm trying to survive. I'm gonna survive and like screw everyone else. Like what, Matt Damon?
Well, keeping it on the sci-fi side, well, I guess we're doing more than I'm gonna do. I like how I've only said like one on my list, really. Okay, I'm gonna toss out 2 of them real quick. Fifth Element.
Okay, yeah.
Originality of it. I love everything about that movie. Jurassic Park.
Which one?
The first one. I mean, I even have the tattoo right here, the hold on to your butts.
Oh wow, damn. Samuel L. Jackson, man.
Those 2. One that's going to probably surprise a lot of people is actually Big Hero 6. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Big Hero 6. It's a Disney movie that came out maybe 3 years ago. Genius kid makes this like science fair type thing. It's kind of hard to explain that. But his project ends up getting stolen, and his brother killed over it. And he made this kind of like medic robot type thing. that helps him, you know, and along with his brother's friends, go and try and take down the bad guy essentially. The reason why I think that movie, like, every kid should watch, is because it literally goes over everything. Like, very early on in the movie, it, you know, displays loss, which is something, like, me as a parent, like, it's so hard to conceptualize death to a small child, like, and get them to actually understand it. And it's like Big Hero 6 did a really well job at that early on. And it's basically like how, you know, taking revenge on certain things and dealing and coping with depression, in a sense, is very important to moving forward. And the fact that they took a gamble, something like that, and a lot of people don't even realize that with that movie. Because, I mean, that's what the whole movie's about, is coping with loss. I think it's something that is overlooked, and for them to convey that message to small humans and even attempt to, and on top of that, make one of the best animated films they've ever made, to me, that knocked it out of the park.
Well, to stick to kind of the sci-fi trend. It's a cartoon, but it goes back to the original Transformers series. It was the first original Transformers movie that came out with Galvatron, Hot Rod, Ultra Magnus. And one of the things I like most about that movie is also one of the worst things for that happened to that franchise, was that epic battle that Optimus Prime had and with Megatron, and he ends up dying, but he defeats Megatron, but Megatron gets revived into Galvatron, and Optimus Prime just stays dead. Well, yeah, and then Hot Rod becomes the new leader of the Autobots. Well, that didn't convey too well in the TV series. It didn't, like, it was tanking to the point where the creators of the show was like, all right, we're bringing back Optimus Prime somehow. We're gonna bring him back. We're gonna make up some wild idea, and we're gonna bring him back to life. We're gonna go find the original creators of Optimus Prime. They're gonna revive him somehow. But that's one of the reasons I love that movie, was because they killed the epic hero. He was legendary. He was the man that couldn't be beat, couldn't die no matter what, and they killed him. They just killed him off, and it was heartbreaking to me. It was heartbreaking to me, like, just the way he died. I think it would have been better if he died fighting Megatron instead of dying on the operating table. Like, come on. But no, I'm glad they brought him back. To finish it off, my list.
Wait, are you finishing it off on a sci-fi note, though?
No, I'm not. I'm finishing it off on one of my favorite actors of all time. A lot of people may not know him. You may not know him, but Steve Mcqueen. He's just fucking badass actor.
The name. I know the name.
He didn't give two shits about what people thought of him. He just did what he wanted to do. And one of his quotes was, "I live for myself, and I answer to nobody." And I like that quote that he said. The movies that, my last two are basically his movies. Bullet, which was basically him in San Francisco being a detective, investigating a murder. And the storyline was okay, but the best part of the movie was a chase scene between him and the shooters. And he's driving a 1968 Ford Mustang versus I believe it was a 1968 Dodge Charger. But what I find fascinating about it is that if you try to pit those two cars together against one another, they don't. Like, the Dodge Charger will win in a straight line. And also another thing about that movie, that car, is that they used a different audio from the fastback. Like, they didn't use the
Actual fastback.
Well, they didn't use the actual audio from that car, because I forget what I think it was a Falcon Falcon that they got the audio off of. But yeah, that movie's like, I just love the way like he portrays himself. He doesn't he gives like I believe it was the FBI. He gives them shit all the time. Doesn't really care, and which leads to the next movie.
The Getaway?
No.
Oh, I've seen that one.
Le Mans.
Le Mans,
where very, very little acting. I think there's maybe like 20 minutes, 30 minutes of dialogue, and then like 3 hours of just car racing. It's just legit car racing, and that's actually his own movie. Le Mans is his own production.
Like, oh, you did everything?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, just so everybody knows, Bullet is spelled Bullitt. Le Mans, Lemans.
Oh, you had trouble finding it at first?
No, I typed in Steve McQueen, but just to be on the safe side in case anybody's into them older racing flicks. I mean, for me, like, I know The Getaway was a lot like, the Italian Job style feel, like the old one, and I love that stuff.
Well, with Le Mans, like, he tried to control it so much that they went over budget. They were over schedule, like they were past their schedule of when to get things done, and that the production company was like, all right, we need to take over. And then the worst part was they're already filming, like they already got all this like film, and they don't know how to end the movie because Steve McQueen hasn't decided how to end the movie, and he's waiting on writers to like figure out, like, to tell him how he should end the movie, because he doesn't want to end the movie, and he's waiting for like every writer that comes up to him, he's all like just fires them on the spot because he doesn't like it. I'm like, damn. But that was Le Mans was his baby, and he wanted it ended the way he did, and I thought it was the best ending because, like, you know how every main character, when like any type of event like that, they win. Yeah. He doesn't win. He gets second place. Or no, second. No, he gets second place because he beats out. He's driving a Porsche. It was like one of the years back in the 70s when Porsche got into Le Mans and won. Well, his teammate won the race while he was battling it out with a Ferrari driver. So remember in the 70s, Ferrari and Porsche had that huge rivalry, which they still do in some racing events. But it's not as dramatic as it used to be. I feel like everything back in the 70s, 60s was just way more dramatic. Or maybe that's just what they make it seem like. But I'll never forget at the end where Steve McQueen and the driver for Ferrari, I think he was French, like, no words or anything. They just look at each other and they just gave each other hand gestures. I was just like...
I thought you were going to say hand jobs.
Nah, they just give each other hand gestures. And I haven't seen the movie.
Hand gestures of hand jobs.
And I haven't seen the movie in a while, but I know it's like, you don't need to say words with the hand gestures that they did. Like, you know what they said.
Yeah.
What about you?
Let's see, my number one favorite movie of all time is a lovely movie called Equilibrium. Christian Bale flick. It actually came out the same time as The Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
Had a lot of that flashy gun. So they had gun kata or gunshata is what they called it, which was like a gun-based kung fu. About a society in the future that bans all art, music, film, books, everything. And people are required to take this drug every day that gives them no emotions. So if people aren't people, there can't be war. So Christian Bale plays a cleric, is what they're called. Basically a law enforcement, like higher up that enforces the destruction of all contraband and executing the perpetrators. And one day he doesn't take his medicine and he starts to get emotions back, and then it's just like a snowball effect.
Yeah.
And to me, in the Matrix, definitely overshadowed it to where people don't even know this movie existed, which is such a shame because it is incredible. I mean, it actually has a well thought out and explained, very original plot, while still keeping up that kind of controversial Fahrenheit, 451.
I love that. I love that.
The
book.
Wave,
Yeah.
like that kind of like real iffy political,
Big Brother always watching you.
foreshadowing shit, And it's like that movie I think is very important for anybody who likes action or science fiction, or even politics, especially politics, to really like take a look at it. And even though it's like, we're not being drugged by the government, I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any means. Like, I mean, 2 fucking planes flew into the Twin Towers, like it happened, but people are so set on.
Are you a chemtrails?
See, it's just like I believe
that's just basically heat mixing with the heat of the engines mixing with the cool moist air of the atmosphere.
It's just like, I mean, I don't get how people can be like, oh well, there is no way that these planes flew into our towers. But I hate to throw back to religion, I'm sorry guys, but believe there's a big guy in the sky that made everything. You know what I mean? It's like, this is definitely impossible, but this isn't. You know what I mean? So I think people need to worry about what's wrong and what's currently happening before you get into that stuff. Which, one thing that I believe is wrong with a lot of things nowadays is music. To our final topic. There's incredible musicians still out there, and I mean, it's so readily accessible to be far better than you actually are at music. Like, I mean, if you listen to my music, I sound a million times better than I actually am. Not saying that I suck, but it's like the fact that I'm more of a songwriter than I am an actual musician, and I find ways of doing things, like of whether it be mimicking a sound or
doubling.
Yeah, just so much shit. There's so much shit you can
stretching
do.
it out. I mean, I'm getting new to this.
Well, I mean, so you even see a lot of the editing stuff, and I mean it's insane. But one musician who has always stood out to me and will always be better than Michael Jackson, and you were wrong if you disagree, is Prince.
Okay.
I mean, sure, Michael Jackson might have had better songs. I mean, that is certainly,
Prince
that's
revolutionized.
But I'm sorry, but Prince was far more talented than Michael Jackson. End of story. I'm going to take somebody who can play all the instruments that he played, wrote all that stuff. I don't care if Michael Jackson beatboxed stuff in his head and was like, oh, hey, this bass lick sounds good. And, danced and, leaned forward. I mean, yeah, Michael Jackson had a really good voice and all, sang some incredible songs, but people don't realize that Prince played all those instruments. He wrote it all. He produced it himself. And to me, there's just more like soul in Prince's music. And he wasn't afraid to say whatever the hell he wanted to. I mean, one of his biggest songs, Kiss, is ridiculously sensual. Now, that's, always going to be one of my top artists. Just because the amount of music that he put out and the quality, and he, as full of himself as he was, it was like he still was a little humble.
Mm-hmm.
It was more like, oh, like he wanted to step back and come into the spotlight when he wanted to, Now, I think had Michael Jackson not had the childhood that he had, I think he would have been far more successful than he was. And I mean, that's the king of pop right there,
Yeah.
He was dubbed the king of pop. But he was never able to mature as a person. Obviously, the motherfucker had an amusement park at his house, and it's like, it's kind of hard to expect somebody to mature on an emotional level, and be like, oh well, they matured on a musical level. Like it's so much emotion goes into music that it's like, imagine if he would have developed on that level, how much more successful or more talented he would have been.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just me being a musician and looking at it that way. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but
No, that's your point of view, and that's what matters is your point of view. It doesn't matter what anybody else says.
Yep.
And you always have people that disagree and agree with you. But the point is what comes from your heart and what you believe to be true in your own head.
Now, do you have a single artist on there, not a band?
I actually have 2 single artists.
Who would you put as number one of those 2?
Jim Croce. He was a singer back in the 60s. Wrote all the songs himself, played them all. I think it was just mainly him playing with his guitar, just singing. Operator, Time in a Bottle. It's just like they're just his songs. I think like his type of music focus more on the words that he's saying more than just the beat, but the beat supplemented the words that he said, and I feel like that's what the Beatles did. Like their words, they had good words. They had a good flow of words, and with their words, they were able to produce good music with it. But they had to change. I know with the Beatles, they had to change up the pace of their music, also the pace of their words. But Jim Croce, I believe, it was just him. He was on his own. Just a way better singer than what a lot of people give him credit for.
That's like, I mean, for me, like, okay, I'll go into another artist. A band of people who had 3 people that sang, just like the Beatles, but were far more talented than the Beatles, and that's Styx.
Well,
I mean, the Beatles.
I like a few of their songs. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a Beatle fan fanatic, but they make it in my top 5 just because.
I mean, like, and this is just me, like, once again, this is more opinionated. Songwriting wise, I mean, the Beatles were, the 4-chord, pop rock, Britpop stuff. But they did something that I will never do with music, and that's revolutionize it. So, whether, just like Nirvana, I hate Nirvana. I think they are one of the worst bands to ever exist. Trash. Kurt Cobain's vocals were garbage. He played 3-chord songs, 4-chord songs, flipped them around backwards, stole lyrics from random bits of poetry.
See, you know more about music than I do because that's your life. It's part of your life.
I love Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl, Foo Fighters, incredible. He's so talented. But Kurt Cobain, no matter how much I hate him and his music, he completely killed hair metal. Like, hair metal was fucking huge, and he completely killed it. I could never do that, so hats off to him. But Styx, you have people from so many different backgrounds, Dennis DeYoung grew up doing a lot of theater. And then, he's the one who sang in Come Sail Away. Then you had Tommy Shaw, who, grew up with that Nashville blues, very higher voice. He sings in Renegade. And then you had JY, who... JY did... JY, it's gonna fuck with me now. JY Young? Anyways, he's the one who sings the beginning of Snowblind, the other guitarist. And when you have bands that can pull in, the theatrics, like in Come Sail Away, and then pull in the blues from, like... Renegade, and then JY. I'm gonna have to. It has to be JY. I'm gonna be pissed if it's not.
Another band that's kind of reminding me that's doing that now is Cleo.
Who?
Kaleo. Like you'll listen to his latest album. Like he'll go from just like.
I want to say somebody said something.
Sounds like some of the music like it's very flowy, very pop. But and then some of it's like just kind of like patio music playing, and then he has like some mellow stuff, some hard stuff, like all on the same album. Like it's not the same type of flow of music. It changes its tone, and I think that's great. That's awesome. It's not many artists do that with their albums. Like they try to just stick with one flow, especially most rock bands. Like they try to go from the end of one song, try to transition to the next song.
Mm-hmm. It's like, I mean, I know like a majority of people that are listening to this probably have never heard of this band, and if they go listen to it, they're gonna be like, "What the hell is this guy talking about? Why would that be on his top 5? This is garbage." And he thinks he knows stuff about music. There's actually a band called Converge, and they're a hardcore noise metal band that I believe they started in 89, 88, 89, somewhere around there. And they just were like balls to the walls, like screaming and just like fast paced, like not even blast beats like they do in like a lot of the death metal music, but just like real, just like offbeat stuff. And like it's crazy music. And I mean, they just put out an album like not even a month ago, and I mean they're still out there doing it. But something for them, like I guess when I first heard You Fail Me. No, it wasn't You Fail Me. It was, I want to say it might have been Petitioning the Empty Sky. Whichever one has the Saddest Day on it. That just like shot me. Like I was like, holy crap! Like what have I been missing out on in life? You know. But them, and like I mean, even like if I say Jimmy Eat World, a lot of people are probably like, why Jimmy Eat World? You know, I mean that's just like one of my favorite bands. Like they're a band that really, I guess it's more of a personal thing than actual like how I would sit there and say Prince or like Styx, even though those are both personal to me. It's just a lot harder to talk up Jimmy Eat World and Converge.
Yeah. Well, talking about personal, one artist and band that it's personal is Lucas Graham. Just because like his hardship of his life and losing a parent and how he sings about that and what he feels, and like I can relate to that. And then also like losing friends throughout the year, either through just moving on because your life takes different paths, or you've lost a friend, like, and then also people worrying about you, like, don't worry about me, like I got my life, I'm handling it, you do you. And that's what I like about Lucas Graham. Like not only that, like he came from a rough background. Like he didn't even growing up, he didn't even have a toilet. Like he came from Netherlands, like poor part of Netherlands, like didn't have a toilet or anything. And now he's living it up. He sang like a number of years in Argentina before making it big. Like, can you imagine that? Going from the Netherlands and then doing a tour in Argentina, singing in probably Spanish. Like he said, he had to learn Spanish.
That's wild.
That's awesome. Like that's dedication. Like you got all these problems going on in your life, your personal life, but you're still following your dream, still following your goal.
That's what you got to do.
And that also another thing brings.
I know what your favorite.
The War of Art. Well, hold on. I still got one more band before I get to that one, but this band I feel like has transitioned well throughout the different generations. They've been around a while, and I feel like their music just they find the right tones, they find the right beats to keep up with the times, and that's Red Hot Chili Peppers. I know you probably.
I know. I like. My thing is, I just can't get that video out of my head where it's like all he's saying is California, and I'm just like, man, I can't listen to Red Hot Chili Peppers ever again. But you're very right. The fact that when the late '90s hit and everybody was doing the sappy songs, and they put out that song "The Other Side" and "Californication," those songs they were incredible. And it's like, yeah, like I don't like. There's quite a bit of stuff there that I do not like, but at the same time, they are so damn talented. Like, yeah. Anthony Kiedis has an incredible voice. Flea's amazing. What the hell's the guitarist's name? Can't even think. But I mean, they are just like you said, you know, a band that really keeps up with the times, and one that's not on my list, but you should definitely check out that they have done the same within their own genre is a band called Minus the Bear.
Minus the Bear?
Yeah, they have a lot of funk, electro, indie, pop stuff. I don't know. It's very different.
I have some honorable mentions. I'll tell you after I give a brief statement about my favorite band, but you can go ahead with your.
No, your favorite band.
Well, I already talked about it before on the last podcast with you, but that was Rise Against, and it's just I don't know. I just love their music.
Something just hits you.
Yeah, it just hits me. Like,
you know,
a lot of people don't like them, but I do.
I love them, and it's funny because that's my stepbrother's favorite band, and I'm just like they're just, to me, they're just such a random band.
Mm-hmm. and they don't do the typical like rock, but not the emo
like
either.
They're alternative,
yeah.
And like they kind of have that edge to it. I mean, it's not that their music itself is. I mean, because their music really isn't original.
Yeah.
Their vocalist, though, he has actually a unique voice, and he is really good at writing melodies. And I think, you could put 100 bands.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them that I've heard, not heard, doesn't matter. Every single time I could pick out Rise Against, you know, and I've never listened to an entire CD of theirs, you know, front to back. That's where something special is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One song that always comes to mind with Rise Against is "Swing Life Away," and it's just a totally different type of beat from what like most of their other songs.
Really good though.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even like the lyrics are kind of like weird.
Yeah. But it flows. It flows.
Yeah. And
and it's catchy.
Yeah, it's definitely something on there.
But
Give It All. Give It All is my favorite song from them.
And what's one? Not like Bleed It Out.
No, I think that's Linkin Park.
No. Is it?
Yeah. No,
they have a.
Man, I see now we're not doing.
They have a Blooded to Bleed It Out.
Oh, okay.
Blooded, Bleed It Out, or something like that. I'm trying to remember. But there's another one that's. This is me giving up. That's another one. Alright, and Endgame. Endgame
I've heard that one.
Was a good one. But I can go on and on about Rise Against, and it'll probably come up later on, so I don't want to spill too much. My honorable mentions though is Smashing Pumpkins.
All right, good choice.
I remember that crazy music video that I was watching with my brothers when I was probably 5 years old, and they were like on an airship or something, floating in the sky, going around the moon. I think so. Yeah, today.
Or no, it's tonight.
Tonight
is what is the one.
Tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tonight. Not yeah.
And then
today's a different song.
Yeah, and then Daft Punk.
Yeah, I mean, you know what's funny is like, yes, you know, all electronic artists are musicians. They make music. They're musicians. I don't care if they just press spacebar.
But they actually play instruments though.
Yeah, I mean they play keyboard and stuff like that. Like a lot of like Skrillex can fucking shred on guitar.
Yeah.
You know, he was in a really big emo band before he did that stuff. He plays drums. A lot of these DJs are actual like they play multi instruments, and just live it's just like press spacebar. I mean, I could go do that right now, but it's like I'd rather not, because it'd be kind of awkward if I just like go up and press spacebar to play something and I'm just like standing there. Like I wouldn't find that fun unless I'm getting paid millions of dollars. I mean, shit, if I was getting paid tens of thousands of dollars, I'd do it.
Yeah.
But I think Daft Punk was I mean they're a band that doesn't keep up with the times. The times keep up with them. You know what I mean? Even though they're so far behind still from where electronic music is now, they're always relevant. Like, it's like they control the pace of it because they're like the grandfathers of this whole thing.
And I like their whole incognito, keeping their identities
it's
a
really
secret,
cool.
even though most of the world knows, but they still stick to it.
And you know what? I can tie that in with my actual favorite band, Slipknot. Just because it was like when I went through my like bullshit teen angst phase and all that stuff, it was like all that rage and stuff like that, and I just vibed with it a lot. And then it was like they started growing, more developing, actually putting out songs with just singing, not just like choruses with singing, but the energy, the just
also the effort they put into their costumes.
Yeah,
man. They had a mask underneath their mask, like wow.
And jumpsuits. I mean, it's already bad enough like playing live with like a t-shirt and jeans.
Yeah, doing that under layers. I can imagine how much hotter and how much more of exhaustion that can put you under.
And then another band that I wouldn't consider them one of my favorite artists, but the reason why they're on my top 5 is the passion, the originality, and the purpose behind their music. And that's Rage Against the Machine. Like, I love Rage Against the Machine, but the fact that Zach De La Rocha used, the hip-hop style, and Tom Morello just was like, oh, I'm going to do a bunch of crazy sounding shit on guitar. And just, make incredible music with it. And Zach De La Rocha voiced his social, economic, political concerns and did it in a healthy manner. But still was like, yo, fuck everybody, it was like, that was his way of protesting, and standing up for what he believes in. And that's something that you don't see a lot of in music anymore. It's just now it's like ass, tits, drugs,
Hey,
as far as hip hop's concerned, and don't get me wrong,
you gotta dig through a lot of shit to get to the goal. Right?
Well, man, it's like we can't just have like Nas, spitting shit every day anymore. It takes Justin Bieber putting out an album with him on it to get him to do any damn music.
Oh, another one that I give honorable mentions to also is Green Day.
Yeah, you know what? I will say when Dookie was a great album, and then I think after that when he was like, you know what, screw President Bush, and then put out American Idiot, I was like, this guy's got fucking balls. Like, it's not like how Propagandhi wrote the stick the fucking flag up your goddamn ass, you son of a bitch. Which, yes, it's an actual title of their song, and they're talking about burning the American flag and all this stuff, but they're from Canada. And it's like Billy Joe Armstrong openly said in public, yo, fuck you. And I was like, man, you know what? All right. Yeah, I mean, you can wipe your ass with the flag. Like, I don't care. But
they had some good songs and some good protests, I would say. But again, I apologize for not paying attention to the audio earlier. But basically, what we were talking about earlier, he was talking about his new camera that he got, which was
Canon Rebel T5i, 18 to 55 millimeter zoom on it.
And that's your new hobby.
Yeah, it's. I've always liked taking pictures. I don't know if I like taking pictures, but I like editing pictures a lot. Like, I really like manipulating things,
That's what my dad does, actually. He spends hours and hours on editing, trying to... he has a lot of old photos of my mother, and he just tries to, because over time, the colors faded.
Yeah.
And then, he's scanned them in, and now he's just trying to restore it, and he spends hours, days, weeks on sometimes one photo just trying to get the minor details right, the eye color.
Why don't you have him pass me on a couple?
Oh,
I'm sure he's meticulous.
He wants
to do it himself.
Because he's a photographer himself. That was one of his hobbies. He used to also develop film,
actual 35 millimeter.
Yeah, and mess with the chemicals, what chemicals to get the right colors and all that. Yeah, that's him. He's super fashion old school. It took him a while to get to the digital age.
I cannot imagine that. Digital or disposable cameras are already a pain in the ass enough growing up.
Did you see what's making a comeback?
The
Polaroids.
Yeah, well, it's the little Fujifilm.
Yeah, but the little instant photo it takes, that's making a comeback.
They're fucking expensive though, man. For those little ones.
How much are they?
want to say the camera itself costs like $60-$70, and the film's about the same for like a couple little things of them. Not worth it. I mean, you could honestly, you could find stuff online to print them that way. I mean, nowadays with all the, I mean, you don't even need Photoshop or Lightroom.
It's about having the picture there with you in the moment.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like, I get that, but it's like, to me, I'm not going to lose something that's stuck in cloud storage among 7 devices, you know what I mean? Like, unless I don't pay my Dropbox bill, but it's like, that's also why I have Google Drive and iCloud.
What if the internet goes away one day? What are you going to do then?
Good thing I have everything on my external hard drive, too.
What if all electronics stop?
So if we get EMP'd?
Yeah.
No, we'll die in 6 months. If we lose all power, we're gone.
But just everything will go to shit until everyone adapts. But a lot of people will probably die.
Yeah, I mean, we can't, I'm not even getting into that. I'll start building me a doomsday bunker.
And then I think one thing we were talking about before was, I was telling you about, like, I planned on doing this a weekly thing. Yeah. But then Thanksgiving hit. I actually had some people say that they wanted to come on, but they couldn't because some of them had some good, like, excuses, like kids. I will always say, yeah, kids come first. I understand. Like, kids sick, no problem. Take care of your kids.
Oh, yeah.
You want to spend time with your kids, no problem. You're not going to see them for a while.
Well, he did a pretty good guest spot.
But it's the ones that, like, they say they'll come do your show, and then they just ghost you. Like, I had one where it said they'd come on the following week, and I'm not going to call them out. They already know who they are. I text them like, hey, you still coming on the show next week? Nothing. I wait till the, like, couple days before Monday. I think it was a Saturday or something. I text them, hey, if you're not going to come on the show, just let me know so I can plan ahead.
Yeah.
Still nothing. Just
simple courtesy.
Just like, rude. Like, really? Like, how are you going to do that?
See, I don't get that. It's like, for me, if you say you're going to do something, just do it. Like, if you're not and you don't want to do something, then don't do it. Like, I mean, for me, like, if somebody's done a million podcasts and they're just like, man, well, you know what? I really don't want to be on another one just because I don't want to, you know? Then it's like, that's understandable, but don't say yes then. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that hard.
Don't commit to something that someone else is already planning. Like, sometimes it's easy to set this up, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes I have to work. I have to find people. Sometimes I have to entice people. Like, just come on. It'll be fun. No worries, no problem. Just, like, give yourself a little boost. Show yourself off to people you know.
Well, even just, like, fact of the matter is it's like, people don't realize that it's just like, you know, having a telephone conversation or just conversation over some smokes. You know, that kind of stuff. It's like, I mean, it takes no effort. You know, I mean, it's a good way to express yourself. And especially, the thing that I don't get is everybody loves to bitch and ramble and moan over social media, but then it's like...
Is that what you're doing right now?
No, I'm editing a picture of Jack because I was behind on my edits today. But it's like everybody just wants to, you know, complain about stuff on social media and this and that. It's like, well, why don't you get out and actually talk about it? Like, because you can't see any sort of expression or tone or emphasis, enthusiasm and things over text. You know, it has to be, you know, I mean, at a minimum, you know, displayed tone of voice.
I was going to tell you, my friend Lawrence, the guy from World's Gym, dude, membership there, like, I know how much you don't like paying for gyms, but you can get a membership for like $10.
Where's this at?
That new gym that they opened up at Ingram Park Mall.
What's it called?
World's Gym.
World's?
Yeah, World's Gym.
That's not far at all. I mean, I live off Marbach, so it's like, I got Planet Fitness right there, and that's like $10 a month, free pizza on Wednesdays.
Oh, they still do the pizza?
I have no idea. I thought that was a joke at first.
I thought they stopped that.
I didn't even realize that they were actually doing that. I was like, wow, that is... What? I mean, I mean, yeah, you're gonna get the overweight people who want to join a gym but don't want to join a gym because they still want to be overweight. You're gonna get those people there with the free pizza. But
hey, that's me, man. I wanna keep eating the food I love, but I don't want to gain weight, so I keep busting my ass in the gym.
See, that's why I'm like, I mean, for me, I started eating a hell of a lot better, but
Well, he says that.
I need to work out.
Well, no, he says, well, yes, work out, but he says, unless you're training for a show, or you have some health concerns or health issues, only then do you need to drastically stick to that diet.
Yeah.
But if it's something like you said, like health, if it's some health issue that's related to what you're doing, then yeah, obviously you need to change your diet to a more healthier, stable diet.
Yeah. But it's that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize is they think that they read this stuff, and I'm sure your buddy will tell you this too, and I don't know anything about personal fitness, but this is just complete common sense. It's like you and me are two completely different people. Our bodies work different ways. If we both look at a diet plan online or a workout plan online, and we both do the exact same thing, or we're not going to get the exact same results.
Yeah, that's the thing. People have to find what works for them.
Exactly, and
not just what someone's pushing down their throat.
And they think that they have to be super. And then that's what I think discourages people a lot. And I mean, yes, I understand that like personal trainers do a lot, and they do benefit people, not just physically but mentally and emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know from like when I was big, it was like I was really self-conscious about myself, and it's like now that I've lost a lot of weight, it's like I feel better,
I still feel self-conscious about myself even though I work out 4 times a week. It's gotten to this point now where I'll never forget this dude. I don't know if you ever watched the Bro Science guy.
Oh yeah.
He's all like, the moment you start working out is the moment you're forever small. And it's true. It's a joke, but it's true. Like you think you start working out, like, oh, I'm starting to see a little muscle, and then like when you think you're getting big, next thing you know you're like, my arms are tiny, my legs are tiny. Like you just start thinking like it's a mental thing. Like you just start thinking like you're just small. And even Josh is the same way. Like he's all like, man, that saying's more true than what you think. Like the moment you start working out, you're forever small and that's why some people like they get those massive muscles, and you'll even talk to them and they'll say like, I'm still small, bro. Still gaining that, still making those gains. I'm like, fucking biceps are like that fucking huge. And but yeah.
So World Gym over by Ingram. I'm down to go check that out.
Yeah, $10 a month.
No contract?
I don't know.
Oh, we'll have to find out.
I didn't get that.
I would find it hard to believe that.
I went to the grand opening because they had some barbecue brisket and all that, and chicken, and that's why I went. I mean, I went for the free food and just to hang out with my friend.
Yeah.
Just give my support, and yeah, but go check it out. I would say it's a lot better than Planet Fitness. Just the staff that they have, like actual trainers. Nothing against Planet Fitness. I barely stepped in one, and my impression, I wasn't impressed with Planet Fitness when I've been there, but that was years ago.
Yeah, I mean it's
nothing against them.
But one thing I do want to say before we close this out is to anybody listening. I mean, I'll give this what today is the. When are you gonna have this uploaded?
On audio?
Mm-hmm.
Probably in a couple hours.
Okay.
Probably like 2 hours from now.
Let's say we'll go till Friday, December 8th. It's my birthday. Whoever go ahead and follows me on Instagram, my handle is I am Wayne, WAYNE, FAU, FAU. I have a bunch of photography stuff up on there, videos that I've shot, stuff of that nature. I know Christmas is coming up. Whether you want portraits of you, your kids, animal. I can even do Christmas card designs, stuff like that. Send me a message of what you would like, and I will pick one lucky person who will get a free photo shoot. All expenses, will be covered. I mean, unless you're talking about traveling out of town, anything done within San Antonio. I mean, I'll even stretch it out to like Helotes, stuff of that nature. I'll meet you. I'll take the shots, edit them, and if you want Christmas cards, that kind of stuff, I can make those as well. And then you just have to pay for the printing on them. So once again, go ahead and follow me on Instagram and shoot me a message, and I will pick somebody probably sometime while I'm intoxicated on my birthday. So I think that's pretty fair.
Happy early birthday, bro. Sorry I can't be here.
Next year.
I'll be on the other side of the world, meeting up with Josh over there in Melbourne, Australia.
We all better have a beer for me over there.
Oh,
Pound of Foster's.
Foster's? No. We'll get some Coopers or something
all
like
right.
that.
That's
But
acceptable.
That's another thing we were talking about before was probably the part that had no audio was that I was going to be going to Australia. And also, if I find somebody interesting or something, I'll record it. It won't be live. I might even do Josh, also just getting his perspective on just what he thinks of Australia. And be going to the Great Barrier Reef up there in Cairns, up there in northeastern Australia. And then I'll be going to the Outback to visit Ayers Rock for a couple nights, experience that night sky that all the Aussies say is beautiful out there, and maybe go camp in New Zealand for a day or two, and then come back to Melbourne and have Christmas and New Year's in Melbourne with my girlfriend, who will be coming up there during that time period.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
A lot of fun, a lot of money.
I was like, I'm gonna be here in the good old U.S. of A's.
But yeah, I'm really excited about that. Like I said, if I find anybody of like interest, anything about the Great Barrier Reef or about Ayers Rock, I'll see if they're down to have a little recording shoot.
You know what? I'll see where my buddy Morgan lives. And I say buddy, I met him when I was really intoxicated when I was up in Times Square for work. Real cool guy. He actually traveled all of the U.S. during that time. And I want to say he lives in Melbourne. So I'll hit him up on Snapchat.
Okay.
And then put him in touch with you. If,
Yeah, just shoot him on whatever social media. I'm pretty much on everything. But yeah. Also, this is the guy which was on 2 episodes ago.
Blonde hair. No.
I've been playing his music at the end of the downloaded version. I have to spell this out because a lot of people tell me, how come there's no music at the end of the video? I'm like, it's not at the end of the YouTube video. It's at the end of the audio download version that is available on iTunes and Google Play, which will be available probably 2-3 hours now after I get done uploading, editing, and all that. So, all right, man. Well, I'm excited to get my trip started tomorrow. I'll be gone.
That much time.
I'll be going in the future, losing a day, and I'm excited, man. Go meet up with Josh in Melbourne.
Well, y'all have fun out there, man. Thanks for having me on again.
Hey, no problem, man. Oh.